you say that eminent domain is wonderful, and you talk.
I don't say wonderful. I say eminent domain is something you need, Chris. Eminent domain. If I build a highway, Chris,
I understand.
And I know exactly what you're saying. But
No.
if I build a highway, and if something's in the way of the highway, you're going to have to do something.
I understand
with
that, and that's the idea of using, taking private property for a public use.
And by the way, the people get paid for it. Everyone thinks they don't get paid. They get paid a lot of money.
But in the Kelo case, the big Supreme Court case in 2005, they took somebody's home and they sold it and bought it, and then they sold it to private entrepreneurs, private developers, and that's the question.
That's different.
But that's the question I'm going to ask you.
That's different.
Do you support taking private property for private use?
Okay. When you need highways, everybody understands you need eminent domain. Do you agree with that? Otherwise, you wouldn't have any roads.
I agree.
You wouldn't have any highways. Somebody's going to be in there with a little piece of a corner of them.
Use.
That's okay. If somebody has a property in the middle of a 7,000 job factory, as an example, that's going to move into the town, but they need this one corner of his property, and it's going to provide 7,000 jobs in a community that's dying, of which we have many in this country, okay? I am for that. That's a big economic development.
Even though it's private property for private use.
Let me tell you, the funny thing, a lot of the conservatives that hear eminent domain, they think that you're taking their property. Those people make a fortune. You have people that go ahead and invest in properties where there's going to be, because they make a lot of money. They get more than fair market value for the property. But remember this, all of these people that we're talking about, they're friends of mine. They all love the Keystone Pipeline, right? The Keystone Pipeline is all eminent domain. They're building that pipeline. Without eminent domain, you wouldn't be able to build.
But let me ask you, because you were involved in a case like this, as you know, in the 90s.
True. That was an economic development.
In Atlantic City.
Sure.
You had your hotel,
right,
and you wanted to build a parking lot,
right,
and some woman had her house.
She saved me a fortune. Do you know what?
But I know, I guess the question is, why do you need to take her house for a parking lot?
I'll tell you why. Because I have a hotel. And in order to expand the hotel and add 2,000 rooms, I would have had to take her thing. Now, the 2,000 rooms would have provided about 2,500 jobs. Okay, it would have been a massive. She held out. This was not a person that loved her house. This is a person that just wanted money. Ultimately, I offered a lot of money. She didn't take it. I didn't build the job. I didn't do it. Saved me a lot of money, because Atlantic City, I had the good sense to leave 7 years ago. I got very lucky. I mean, if I would have built it, it wouldn't have been such a pretty picture. So I made a lot of money. She ended up just getting a tiny amount of money, by comparison. She sold it. She ended up getting a very tiny amount. The point is, that would have been a deal where she would have made a fortune. She would have moved to Palm Beach, Florida. She would have been a rich woman, far more than she ended up getting by selling on the open market. And I would have built thousands of rooms and thousands of jobs. Yeah, I think that would have been a good eminent domain, because you would have provided thousands of jobs. And this is a woman that couldn't have cared less about her house. All she wanted was money.